Hello, hello. Let me know if you can hear me. Welcome. Welcome. Hello. Last week I was going live every day. And this week, and I was going nice and early in the morning. And now this week I am only going live today on Tuesday because my schedule got crazy as it does. Sometimes it's free and sometimes it gets crazy. And this is one of those crazy weeks. It's a weird crazy, it's a good crazy. I spent my day today on a dairy farm, a historic dairy farm. I'll be at Cal Expo tomorrow and then have a job on Thursday that's going to be really fun, and I have to build a child science fair volcano for it as one of the props that I need. So it's like I just found out yesterday that I have a science project due tomorrow. Fun problems, but I am excited to get some progress done on this. So I have been playing with basically stabbing things into this and seeing if it will stick and how it's working. So if you can't see from that far away, in the center I put a golden cow. And that was a truck. The truck wasn't secure. It was just kind of, it can go anywhere. It's really kind of easy to attach. I have a couple elephants right here. And how I plan on attaching them is a thumbtack, or I may have to extend the surface area of the thumbtack with a washer. But stabbing this through the boning, I can position the animals however I want, and they stay and they don't pull on the fabric. And granted, there's going to be layers of fabric in between this. So I will be getting the miniatures sometime this week, possibly early next week. So I'll know what I'm really working with soon, and I can add the proper boning that I'm going to need where it's going to need to be. But for right now, I don't have to stress about that. Sorry, I can't talk. It's late. I'm ready for bed. But I am not going to worry about the boning. For now, I have a good base layer in place. I have a general idea and concept of everything that needs to be in. What I need to accomplish tonight is I need to get my lining and facing cut out. Didn't we just cut out a bunch of layers of fabric? Yes, we cut out our outer layer of fabric. What a lot of people call the fashion fabric. We got that cut out. We have our interlining. I'm going to call it an interlining because it's not facing anything. It's a lining because it's doing our full lining. And that is our cotton that we starched. So then all we need now is the lining and the facing. Now, what's the difference between the lining and the facing? Good question, right? The lining is the fabric that you line the garment in. The facing is the fabric that you face it in. And sometimes you have both. Facing usually is just around like the openings, like the neckline or the armhole or whatever. Just the bare minimum to finish the edge, flip it inside out, and then it's done. That's a facing. It's very easy to do. They're the complicated pieces and all the little bits, pattern pieces that you see in those package patterns that are just like, feel like they're overly complicated, but they're actually really, they're saving fabric, time, and it's a nice way to finish a seam or finish an edge more like it. So facing's just like kind of the bare minimum, finishing the edge. Lining finishes the whole entire, the amount that you want to line. You don't have to do a full lining, but a lining will usually be like the whole part of it or a big chunk of it. And now you can also do the facing and a lining together where you do a different fabric for the part that's just around the edges specifically. And then line it in a different fabric for the rest of the garment. And that's kind of what I want to do because it's going to look fancier if I do it that way. And I'm going to line it, and since this is based on a garment that I have and it has a full lining, and it also has, now I'm not sure if it has really well finished edges. Let me peek. It's right here. This just has a lining. It's fully lined in this other fabric. Oh, here, this is what I'm talking about, the facing. This part right here. See how it's the same as the outside fabric? And it has the lining here. This is the lining, this is the facing. And so I want to do, I'm not going to do princess seams on it. I'm going to do a center front seam. And so I'm going to put a facing like this on both sides of center front. Let me measure this. I was imagining something slightly thicker. I don't know what to do. Spooky's on my ruler and I don't want to disturb Spooky. I have other measuring devices. I don't need the one that Spooky's sitting on, even though I really like that one. Welcome, Eonolith. Finally get to watch LOL. Yes, I usually have been, I did all mine last week early in the morning before you even wake up. Well, I don't know what time you wake up, but you know, bright and early. And congratulations on cleaning your oven. Austin Lips, welcome. Hey Felicia, I'm watching you in bed. I had to get out the wheelchair, so I'm on my phone now. Nice. Welcome. Yanolith, disturb Spooky, lol. No, I can't disturb Spooky. I'll do it later. He's gonna have to move. But right now, he is so gosh darn cute and keeping me company. I don't want to disturb the Spooky. Yes, Ian. Austin Lips. Not yet, Yanolith. Not yet. Eventually. Okay. So this facing is 1.5 inches, and I was imagining about a 3-inch facing, but I guess I really don't have to do a full 3-inch facing. Why not? It'll give it a little bit more structure. I think I'm gonna do a 3-inch facing. So how do I know what my facing pattern needs to look like? That's kind of, I'm not going to say it's the easy part because none of this is easy, but it's not complicated. It's just I have my original pattern up there. Let me go grab it and put this back. Button it first. This is the pattern. Let me speak into this thing. This is the pattern that we did for that. And now I just need to measure 3.5 inches in, which is mostly a straight line. Right here is where the curve needs to happen. And I need 2 pieces of those. I'm going to mark it out on this piece of fabric because then I'm going to fold it in and then cut the lining because the lining doesn't need that piece there. I hope that makes sense, or maybe I just made you more confused. Either way, Spooky, I actually need that ruler now. Do I though? Maybe I have another one. If I slide it nicely. Hey, Spooky. I got it. Hi, Spooky. What's nice is that this ruler has 1, 2, 3.5 inches, so I'm doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. No, Spooky, this is not your new comfy spot. I know. You want it. Welcome to the spooky show. And I am just going to mark this whole thing up here real quick. I want to get this done quickly because it is really late and I'm ready for bed. But I wanted to get this, I wanted to get all my pieces cut out and the seam, like the main seams sewn together. They don't all have to be sewn together, but I want all my side seams done, but they don't need to be attached at the neck because I want to add, so for this heavy wool, I want a light silk Peter Pan collar, specifically a Peter Pan collar. All right, I can put that back where it was. Just to remind you, there's a cat here. Okay, so I need to cut out my fabric. I have it right in front of me. Oh, I picked out a lining. I went through my fabric stash and I found a green one that reminds me of something that would line a vintage cape. And it's a light green, it's floral, it fits within the theme, and nobody's ever going to see it, but it makes me happy. So it checked every single check mark of the boxes that I needed it to. And before I grab it, Boston Lips. Hey Felicia, go to this program called, oh nice. All right, let me grab my stuff. I need to not get distracted because I want this finished because it will turn out lovely if I actually just do it. Get all the stabby things off of this because I don't need them here anymore. I got most of them. I'll find the other ones later. What do you think? I think this is very pretty. It's just a light floral damask. I think it's a damask. But let me cut off my facing first. Yes, because, hold on. I have to mark it because I know that I'm going to forget this. I'm going to mark my seam allowance because I'm using this as my pattern and one side needs the seam allowance on this side of the line and the other side needs it on that. And if I only put one line there, it's going to end up being about a ½ an inch short. But if I mark it now, I will remember. Well, I'll know what it means. Okay. Cut facing here, and then I'm going to turn it this way. Cut lining here. Okay. Being clear on your pattern makes you usually know what your mistakes are going to be at the pattern phase. They only get worse and worse as you get further down and more committed to them. But a bad idea is still a bad idea. I don't know. Sometimes it's worth it just to stop, but all right, I have my facing marked. I want to cut the facing out and then I'll cut out the lining. Okay. That's the boning. I don't need that today. That is just on the side for now. Here we go. Oh no. I have to keep it in the plastic away from the spooky. But here's my selvage edge. Let me get untwisted. Okay. I don't want to disturb the spooky. Good thing he's fairly patient. And he assumes I'm just making him a fumpier bed and he'll be patient for it. Okay, flat. And I'm going to fold it. And this is why I usually cut out on the floor, because table space. But I will be a civilized folk today. Alright, especially since this fabric lays so nicely. Oh my gosh, I really do like working with this fabric. This is a very, very nice wool. Facing here. I'm going to line this up right on the fold, and then I'll just cut down the fold. All right. Cut this. Not supposed to cut with any fabric hanging off the edge. And I'm totally letting fabric hang off the edge, but it was more a pattern piece and I didn't think of it as fabric, but it's the same concept. Don't cut fabric out with fabric hanging over the edge. Let me fix this and then I'll rectify my situation. All right, that's laying flat, that's laying flat. That's where it needs to be. There we go. Okay, nothing's hanging off the edge. Yep. All lined back up completely. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Whew. Crisis averted. Unpin this. And the more and more I work with this wool, the more and more I appreciate it. Okay. Facing. One for each side. There's 2 of them. Okay. I just needed these 2 little pieces from this giant piece, but I just took it from the edge, so I'm not being wasteful and cutting it from the middle fold or anything like that, because that would be ridiculous. But it's easy to happen. It easily happens when you're kind of new to sewing, because you're just like, oh, I can get some. Sorry, Spooky. How you doing, Toby? This fabric's folded the wrong way for the selvage edges to be together. So it goes this way. I need to cut out a back piece, which is going to be on the fold, and then I need to cut out a center front and 2 front pieces, because there's going to be a center front opening, and I need to cut it on the modified line we drew in, and I have to make sure that I cut out on the right line and cut lining here, so it's this one. Okay. Is Spooky still there? Yes, Spooky's right here. This is the Spooky. So let's cut this out on the fold. Line this up here. Hi, Bruno. Oh, hi, Toby. Oh, good. Good boy, Toby. Feel better? Sorry, Spooky. Don't go that way. Okay. Center back, no modified seams, just cut it out as is. Okay. Say hi to Toby, he's right here. He helps you see Spooky a little better too. Spooky, this would be a little easier if you weren't here, but I'm happy you're here. So much more fun with you. Bad Wolf custom airbrushing and decals. Just work around the cat. Love it. Yeah. All right, well, I'll see you later, Toby. He's gonna go get comfy over there. There he goes. Okay. There's definitely a right side and a wrong side to this fabric. Okay. Oh, welcome, Danda's Junk. All right. Got one facing piece. Let me put this one here. Lining here. Let me line it up with my lining. Okay, goes there. All right, I'll scoot this way, Spooky. Okay. All right, all flat and Spooky is still comfortable. Okay. Okay. Let me cut the neckline. And let me just cut off the selvage because I lined it right up with that. Okay. This scrap is not saved scraps. These pieces are too small for any real project. Now, granted, my old neighbor who I used to live, old neighbor person I used to live next door to, it's the same thing, sorry about that. Told you it's late, I'm tired. But anyways, this lady I used to live next to, she was a lovely lady. She used to love to make crazy quilts. She would take scrap fabrics, small pieces like that, donated scraps, and she would just sew them all together. It didn't matter, mix match, and she would make what she calls crazy quilts, and then she would donate them to kids that needed them, which was really sweet. She also was a very committed quilter. She had her whole living room set up to a giant arm machine. Anyways, I admire that lady. She's pretty cool. Anyways, I can't hold on to scraps like that. I don't have a super quilting machine, and I am not going to sit there and sew them all together. I've already decided this a long time ago. But I will keep the bigger scraps and such. All right, good night, Austin Lips. I know it's late. I have a late stream today, but I just wanted to get this done. It's Tuesday, and I didn't want to do this without all of you guys joining along with me. So, okay, I have my lining cut out. I have my facing cut out. Let me clear the table, and we'll see all the weird pieces that I currently have. Toby. Okay, it's a bit of a mess, but it's been hanging there for a weekend. And there goes a bobbin. I'll get it later. Okay, let's start at least sorting it by color. Goes over there. Here's a green piece. That goes up there. This goes over here. These go here. Okay, what are all these layers that I have? Right here. Actually, let's start here. This is my very first layer. This is our foundation layer, and this is where we were starting because this is what we are building everything off of. See that cow? It's gonna work. It's gonna be fun. We have all the boning channels started. I can add more once I get the figurines and kind of an idea of where everything's going to go. I can see where I need to add it, where I don't need to add it, etc. But if you look at these boning channels, they are a flat, rigid cylinder when they're sewn together. The walls are very straight up and down. They are sewn on a cone, which is a curved shape. And so the forces fight each other, not to fight evil, but they just fight each other, and we end up with a step pyramid. Now, I don't want a step pyramid visible on my finished garment. That's why I didn't just put it on the inside. That's why I did it as its own structural layer. And I'm going to take this layer. What's this layer? This layer is my cotton canvas layer that I starch. So it kind of has the consistency of a piece of paper. It's a little floppier, but I think I can get it a little crunchier. But that's going to completely hide all my bumps. It's already gone right there. And when I press it completely crunchy straight, because it's been hanging funny for a weekend, it's no longer straight, but it'll straighten up really easily. It's going to completely hide all the lumps and bumps. Now, I don't want to see this layer. This is the ugliest layer. It's the most structurally sound, well, second most structurally sound layer, but I don't want to see it. It's going to be hidden. That's where the lining comes in. Slash facing, because this is my lining piece. This is my facing piece. So see, lining, facing with the canvas sandwiched in between. So this is what it would look like inside out, which I think looks really pretty. Like I said, nobody's really going to see this except for me or the person wearing it, but still. And then my outside layer is now we have 3 layers in between our bumps and our outside fabric. Ionolith, behind the scenes fashion, you need AstroTurf. Funny you should say that, because the same person who commissioned this once commissioned pants made out of AstroTurf. And I actually figured out how to do them, but then somebody else took over the project, and I think they ended up making tubes. I don't think they ended up working out, but I figured out how I would do it, because AstroTurf is sewn in ribs, like, what's a good example? Like rows or lines, like when you get hair sewn in, they do it in little sections. They do that in the AstroTurf. So I would take a very sharp blade and keep a honing device close by, and I would cut out each individual rib, and then I would sew those ribs down to the fabric, probably by hand, and have the pants pre-made. But getting rid of as much of the plastic as you can, so all you're left with is the tuft of synthetic fibers that are the grass. So I've thought about how I would do that. I had it all prepared, but then somebody else took over the project. I realized, phew, not my problem. Somebody else can handle it. And then it never happened. But it was the same person that I'm doing this for that wanted the AstroTurf. And so, fun problems. I like those kind of problems, obviously. Can't wait to see those pants. Oh, I didn't have to do those pants. Those pants never happened. They could possibly happen in the future, but there's no longer a driving need for them from me. Okay, so I hope I explained the layers pretty well. I'm going to start with attaching all my outside seams. I was going to start from the inside out, which I think I'm going to do. I'm not sewing them all together as one piece. That's going to make really bulky seams. Really bulky seams? What do you mean? That little rib, if there are all these layers sewn into the same seam, that's going to get really thick. Yes, it's going to be thick because they're all going to be sewn in that same area, but if you press them flat and there's individual layers, so they can lay on top of each other and it's not sewing a giant thick seams. Different issues, but not the one that I want to deal with at the moment. So Darren Calvin, welcome. Hello. It's okay. We are tired. Yes. Okay. Just going back in the chat. Okay. Anyways, let me get these sewn together. Push this to the side. Watch out. Spooky. I'm tangled in the thread. It got caught in my cords. Give me 1 second. I thought this was already plugged in. Okay. Let's see. Power. Thread. Okay. I'm going to have to decide which side is my right side and which side is my wrong side of my fabric. Is this the right side? Is this the right side? Can you tell the difference? Not unless they're right next to each other, you can tell. So, dark flowers on light background or light flowers on a dark background? Dark flowers on the light background. Yes, that side looks more finished. Okay. Oh, I guess I didn't cut out my neckline. Oh well. It's okay. Alright. I am sewing with a silky delicate layer to a wool medium weight. I wouldn't say it's heavyweight, it sews really lightly and easily, but it's not a thin piece. I have been using kind of a longer stitch length for most of this project because I've been using giant plastic pieces. But for this, I'm just going to go with the normal stitch length and not change anything, because I don't think I need to. All right, right sides together. Oh, we have DJ Stumpy here. Morning, all. Well, good morning to you. It's evening here. I'm ready for bed. That's a solid stitch and it looks nice, but I'm going to go slightly longer stitch lengths. Yeah, I like that better visually. Does it particularly matter? It does to me. No, it doesn't, but I don't have my iron. I need to press as I sew. That's okay. I will sew these seams and then I will press them. I don't have to keep getting up and down. Oh yeah, I put it away. Okay. Light with dark flowers lined up. I do this out of habit all the time. I take 2 stitches back before I go for, I take 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and then I get sewing. This is called a lock stitch. It's so that when you sew your seams, they don't just start unraveling or pulling apart. It's important to do it, but I got super superstitious. Every time I locked my seams, I'm gonna have to rip that seam out, so I got really nervous about using my back stitching because I didn't want to have to rip out a seam that I sewed really well. Lock stitches are great. I just do a longer stitch length and I don't do high tension because it's usually when it's too tight, too high of a tension is when it's really hard to rip apart. It's because it's all like locked together and it's when it's nasty to try and rip out. So it's not necessarily that I locked the stitches, it's that I used too high of a tension and didn't lock my stitches that I don't enjoy ripping things out as much. Although nobody likes ripping anything out because that means you have to start over and do it again. Spooky has left us. I don't think he likes the bouncing of my sewing machine. He's probably staring at me from a dark corner. He's a little void, and I can't always seem to see where he's at. But he always knows where I am at. Backstitch. Okay, those are gonna have to get ironed. Okay. It is this way. When fabrics are really close and they look like they're the same fabrics on the right side and the wrong side, but they're not, that's when I feel like it's the worst to sew late at night. Because that's when I make my worst mistakes. Because my eyeballs betray me. But then again, I used to work with like 50 shades of white in the bridal fabrics. And even in the sun, like the same fabric will look the same. And then you go from a blue light to a yellow light, and all of a sudden they're completely different fabrics. Or you walk into the sunlight and they're completely different fabrics, but they looked, anyways. It can even be the right side or the right fabric, but then one piece is different grain and they're put next to each other, and you can see that sometimes. So if you're unsure, check in multiple lighting situations, and sunlight is usually your best friend. It's the most honest. Yanalith, well, you shouldn't be ripping out seams. It happens. It happens to the most seasoned seamstress. It happens. And also sometimes you're like alterations. You're putting things in, you put things out. I honestly don't mind ripping out other people's work. It's so much, it doesn't bother me at all. It's my work that I'm emotionally attached to that I don't like ripping out. But also stopping and recognizing when you should stop as opposed to pushing forward avoids a lot of extra ripped out seams. 1 ripped out seam versus 12. Just because you really committed to a mistake doesn't make it not a mistake. DJ Stumpy, hi Felicia. So someone has said when I'm easing the sleeve to use a slow stitch and pointer push each stitch in. My brother is 14, has no slow stitch. Any advice on that, please? Or do I just ignore it? Okay, slow stitch, you can just is if you take 2 hand sewing needles and you just kind of in and out, and you thread it on those onto 2 parallel hand stitch lines. I usually stitch them at the same time with 2 needles. And then you thread that ease onto the string and you kind of shuffle it around between the 2 dots on the pattern to adjust your fullness or your ease. And you can even press it at that point to help kind of smoosh it all together and make those fibers kind of contract back into wanting to be in that curved position. So that's not necessarily something you have to do on a sewing machine. You can just take 2 parallel. So you can even do it like stitch one and then stitch the other, just make sure they're parallel with each other. But you can just thread 2 needles and just at the same time keep them just kind of hold them within the seam allowance, whatever, apart, and then in and out. So tell me what you end up trying, what works, what doesn't work, and why, and you'll learn a lot. Like, easing is a very weird concept until you start actually doing it, because you have two things that are not the same. They're two different lengths, but they need to be sewn into the same length of a seam. And you just kind of smoosh it and you smoosh it. And it has a reason and a purpose, mostly movement. Yeah, mostly movement reasons. But, oh, when everything lines up perfectly, I feel like I'm doing something right. But that was a very good question. But I should do some more research on slow stitch, because that is not a term I'm 100% familiar with. I've heard it before, but I'm like, oh, look at that lining. So pretty. I always have to appreciate each seam, because I feel like, yay, I finished something. What does it look like now? Speak of the devil. This seems wrong. I have it. Yeah, I backstitched. Whatever. It's not going to be that hard to rip out. I just have to get... DJ Stumpy, I have chosen to grab the sleeves and throw them. Stop and then come back. Only joking. They genuinely used the sewing machine and used a tail finger term. Oh yeah, you put your hand right here and you... so that when you're stitching it through, it puts up a resistance and it gathers it that ever so slight amount that you're trying to get. But since you really don't know what you're doing yet, learning how to sew and ease in seams, like I said, easing is a weird concept. You don't know how much you need to smoosh it and pull it. So, yes. Oh, that's a Toby. I'm like, did I see a cat? Oh, geez. This is a shreddy fabric. It's okay. The wool is not. It's okay, I'm only live. And that's the whole point. You guys get to see me suffer. It's okay. I have more of this lining fabric. I have more of this wool fabric. It is not the end of the world. And sometimes it's easier to cut it out again than it is to rip it apart and do it. But when you're limited in fabric, that is not an option. You know, luckily I'm not stressing about that, which sometimes, oftentimes, I am. Oh, jeez. Also, this is why I prefer to do my sewing in the morning times, because I make more mistakes at night, but whatever. When this is the time I get to sew, this is the time I get to sew. All right, I have to be gentle with this lining fabric. It is a beautiful, shreddable fabric if I'm not careful with it. Good thing it's going to be fully encased. Okay, see this right here? See all this little hairs and fraying things? This is why we finish seams. This is why we have linings. This is why we have French seams and encase the seams. It's so that they don't do this. Because if they're shredded like this fabric right here, not only is it going to fall apart every time you wash it, it's just going to completely shred on you. I don't know how to put it any other way, but but having the seams encased inside of the lining will keep them from falling apart when you wash it. DJ Stumpy, I guess even in sewing, too many chefs spoils the broth, and I shouldn't allow too much info to go to my head and confuse. I think anything new is a weird concept, and trying to explain it to somebody who's never tried it before, it's like explaining how to brush your teeth to someone who's never brushed their teeth before. Something you really shouldn't, not something you really should know. It's just something that just is so natural. What's the purpose? To get all the stuff off so it doesn't get worse and gross and yucky. What is the point of trying to do an easing? Trying to get one piece of fabric that is bigger than the other piece of fabric to fit into the same length of the shorter piece of fabric. It's possible. It happens all the time. And no, like, it's easy. I will go home. But what you're trying to accomplish is a little bit of what's the confusing part, I think, really. When you're doing shoulders, they make the sleeve bigger than they make the armhole seam. So all this extra fabric has to gather into this armhole that is smaller than this fabric. And so it's going to gather and kind of cup your shoulder, so it's going to make space for your bicep. And so that is the point of easing. And you don't really want a poofed sleeve, because if you gather, then you have a puff sleeve. And we're not going for a puffed sleeve. We're going for as straight of a sleeve as we can. So that's why you have to ease. So it looks smooth and elegant, I guess you could say. Simple, clean, basic. Oof. Strings are everywhere. Oh well. It's what I get for sewing. Almost there, but don't get impatient because I will shred the silky fabric. It's not silk. It's some kind of vintage synthetic. I bet you it's like an acetate that would like dissolve in nail polish remover. I love textiles. One of my favorite classes I ever took. You hear it and go, yeah, and then you start getting into fabrics and you're like, oh yeah, that makes so much more sense now. Dan does junk. Are you going to make it to Odin's next stream? Still up in the air. It's a definite maybe. There are a few circumstances where I wouldn't, and I'm still waiting to hear about that. So, maybe. Okay. Almost there. I know. It's okay. The last little bit when I get the most impatience, usually when I make the biggest, stupidest mistakes. So since I am live, I am taking my time and just doing this right and not just going yank and then ripping my corners. You know, we're not cutting corners here. Hi, Toby. You didn't like my joke? It's okay. Don't have to. All right. Oh, and then Okay. Now that they are apart, let's put them back together again. Neck. Oh, look at all those strings. Neck. Neck. This way, this goes this way, this piece goes this way, and this piece goes that way, and then right sides together. Right side. Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay. Saying it out loud helps me orient where I am and not just what I think it should be. Yep, that makes way more sense. It fits so much better together. Okay. Sides together. Okay. Oh, that's a good question. DJ Stumpy, what's been the strangest thing you've been asked to make? One of my favorite descriptions of a set that I was asked to build was a monochromatic set that was supposed to be an 80s Tokyo apartment that was supposed to be a bachelor's 80s Tokyo apartment that was supposed to be a filthy mess, but was supposed to be then possessed like in Evil Dead. So things need to come alive and talk and then it needed to explode with color when he beat the set to death, when he's beating up this possessed apartment, which was a really fun, crazy, one of my favorite sets I've ever worked on, honestly. It was just too much fun of a description. That was for the band Werewolf, but it's spelled with 2 V's, Werewolf. And I think the song is called Sugar and Spice. But that was one of the weirdest descriptions I've ever gotten because it just made me laugh. Because I knew exactly what... Anyways, it was a fun project. There were puppets involved. I made them literally the night before we used them, and they were like the cutest puppets. But I was going to say, that's a pretty weird one. As far as clothing goes, I was asked to make a dress that was 15 feet tall for Taylor Park's video. What was it? I'm blanking. It's late at night. But that was like a really weird, crazy dress, and it was amazing. It was this bubblegum pink, and she was on a 15-foot ladder, and we had one of those fans that you inflate a bounce house with to blow up the bottom of the skirt, and so she could be dancing in it. It was really fun. That was a weird, crazy set, too. We had bubblegum pink stairs. Oh! I've had different music videos, same artist, Taylor Parks. I did a set of stairs that were blue hair, so I had to put create blue hairy stairs that were like long blue wig hair stairs. That one was pretty weird. One of the more weird recent ones that I was asked to do was, I don't remember the name of this video or the artist, but they had this outfit that they were wearing, but they needed it to glitch and then become boxy and be a boxy glitched version of their jumpsuit. That one was really fun. Okay. There's that one. Now let me... side and ooh, I was almost going to do, maybe I should I was going to sew the outside fabric and the interlining as one piece of fabric. I think I am. Okay. This is my center back. This is my center back. No, I'm going to sew them as two separate layers. I want to be able to starch and crunch this one up more. I know it's pretty crunchy as it is, but I don't want to get this layer dusty because of all the starch. Okay. This out of the way. Okay. Alright, it's starting to get dark. I'm sewing in the dark here. Ionolith, good question. Did you finish Leia's dress from A&H? No. Almost. It is right behind me. Right there. So that dress is just about finished. I have to hem the sleeves and hem the dress itself. Other than that, it's finished. So it is on the side burner for now. I'm going to pick it back up for a con crunch right before May the 4th. I'm going to event with Odin for that. And I'm going to wear that dress, so I'm going to con crunch that right before that event. So she's just on the side burner for now, but she's mostly finished. I could literally wear her tomorrow if I wanted to. So that's kind of like off my mind. This dress, I wanted to get it so to the point that I can start decorating it. Oops. That needs to go like that. But this week got really crazy and I I just found out that I have a volcano diorama that I have to do. Not because I got surprised with one, because it's like, oh, I have a diorama due the next day at school. It's because I do art production design, and we have a scene where a kid is doing a diorama with his mom, and now I get to make one, a volcano, and I'm kind of excited about it, but I have to get it done. And I have the cone. I'm picking up the papers for the outside and the paint tomorrow. And I have weird problems, but hey, that's what I do for a living. Sometimes for a job, like sometimes on sets, I need to make an aesthetically pleasing mess. So let's make this place look like it's really messy, but use things like blocks or cereal. I don't know. I've had the weirdest problems. Like it's never been a dull day on set. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually getting work done, so I started getting quiet. It's okay. It's 11. I've been here at it for an hour, so I should be finishing up soon. Sewing this long green seams kind of remind me of driving down a long green country road. I don't know, feels like cartoon driving. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put these together. So this is how it'll go together, minus the interlining. And when you open it, you'll see this. I love it. All right, let me do the ugly pieces together. They're not as fun. It's not that they're ugly. It's very in vogue to be this kind of painter's tarp, natural cotton. Okay. I'm not going to bother changing the color thread that I have on because nobody's going to see this layer. So I'm just going to sew it with the green thread. Pretty, thank you. Like I said, AstroTurf, LOL. Yes, it's supposed to look like grass. It's going to be a diorama. Jeez. Side. Okay. That you get to wear that is truly epic. Well, this is going to be made for somebody else to be worn, photographed in, but of course I'm going to try it on. I always do. I like to say I'm a method costume designer. I have to know what people are going to have to deal with when they're wearing this. How is movement like? How is breathing like? Is it hot? Is it uncomfortable? Like, and plus I want to twirl around and feel pretty. So of course I'll have to do that before I send it out. All right, I'm going to put it where it belongs in the order it belongs. With just this lightweight lining layer, you can fill all the ribs. And if you steamed it when it was on top of it, you probably could see them too. Then the next layer is the structure layer. So now it is really smooth going down. I think it's coming together really nicely. I don't want to see that at all. I might give it one more green layer so that you see the green underneath, or at least a dicky or some kind of front layer. But I don't want to do that yet. Not until I figure out where I'm placing everything and how much more boning or structure that it needs, so I can still add it. But I'm glad I'm done. I think this is a good place to call it. Let me get this out of my face. I feel like Mr. Wilson from Home Improvement sitting behind the sewing machine. DJ Stumpy, when I was at school 30 odd years ago, we never made volcanoes. I feel cheated, but that's the UK. Don't know if it was just our school. Honestly, I never did any kind of science fair project like that. But I'm really excited that I get to make a big giant volcano diorama anyways. I remember building like a raccoon diorama. Those were like my favorite animal, and I've been obsessed since the 3rd grade. Yeah, since the 3rd grade. I remember making model cells out of gumdrops and toothpicks, but I have not made a volcano yet, but now I get to, so. Jonathan, it was fun making a paper mache volcano for the science fair, so you got to. That's cool. All right. It's been a long day. It's gonna be a long week. I may or may not go live on Sunday on Odin Makes channel. Odin Makes on our live stream, where we're building the Ghostbusters proton packs. It depends. Like I said, my schedule got really crazy out of nowhere, but it's good problems. Otherwise, I will see you guys all next Tuesday when I go live. I will be trying to go early. If not, we'll go late, but I will be trying to go live anyways on Tuesdays to keep the flow going. If you enjoy these, please remember to leave a like on the stream, especially if you made it this far. I would very much appreciate it. It helps me to keep doing what I'm doing. But until next time, bye.